So my name's Jordan Buick and I'm the Engagement Officer with Charles Sturt University. So just a quick bit of housekeeping. We'll go through our presentations. I'll shortly introduce our faculty who'll be presenting. Could I just ask if the faculty are able just to go through and perhaps just introduce yourselves and just introduce a quick line on which courses you currently work with and which courses you'll be discussing tonight. So we'll just start with Caroline. Do you just want to introduce yourself and the course you're working with?
Thanks, Jordan. Yeah, my name's Caroline Robinson and I'm the course director for the Bachelor of Podiatric Medicine and the undergraduate certificate in foot health. And I'm going to just give you an overview tonight. The undergraduate certificate in foot health is just a one-year part-time course aimed at people interested in becoming podiatry assistant. And then we're excited to launch a new hybrid Bachelor of Podiatric Medicine in 2026. So you'll be able to see how that adds flexibility because students study online and they do intensives and they're supported with industry partners in the area where they live. So I'll tell you more about that. Thank you, Jordan.
And I'll just pass to you now, Patricia, just to introduce yourself in the course that you're currently working with.
Hello, everybody. I'm Patricia Logan. I'm the course director for the School of Dentistry and Medical Science. So I look after things like food science, medical science, pathology, health and medical science, food science, and nuclear science and safety. And I'll talk to you about those later.
Perfect. And Abby, I know that you're working alongside Patricia across those courses, but if you just want to say a little bit about yourself as well.
Thanks, Jordan. And hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Abby. I'm the Associate Head of School for Medical Science and Pathology. I'm a medical scientist by profession, particularly a hematologist. Very happy to answer any questions directed towards the Bachelor of Medical Laboratory Science Pathology. Thank you.
Perfect. And Randy, if you're with us, if you just want to introduce yourself as well, and just a little bit about. Nope, that's right. And Jackie, you just want to introduce yourself and the course you're working with.
Hi, well, thank you. My name's Jackie Osborne, and I'm here representing part of the School of Allied Health and Exercise and Sport. And I'll be looking more deeply at the Bachelor of Exercise and Sport Science, including the Sports Media major and some associated courses.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And so just before we begin, I just want to do a quick acknowledgement of country. And we just want to respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians on the land in which we live and work together. Charles Sturt University pays respects to elders within the First Nations communities, and we want to acknowledge that continuity of cultures, languages, leadership, and those knowledge systems. We just want to acknowledge their continuous connection to country and recognise those unique, diverse identities and the cultures of people in our communities, regions, and nation. And as such, we value the collaboration strongly to strongly position First Nations people within our university through the languages, leadership, culture, knowledges, research, and ceremonies. So as we've discussed, we're going to be going through some of our undergraduate health courses here. So we just had our faculty just introduce themselves and say a little bit about their course. So just for the purposes of time, we'll just continue to move forward. And I'll just pass back to you, Caroline, just to go through the Bachelor of Podiatric Medicine.
Thank you, Jordan. Is Molly doing the slides? Who's doing the slides?
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Sure,
Molly.
Sure, I'm Carolyn, yeah.
Thank you, Molly. Okay, podiatry. Podiatry is one of those disciplines sometimes we feel that people really misunderstand. If you've seen a podiatrist, you'll know what our scope of practice is maybe, and maybe it's a complete mystery to you, but it's a very diverse profession. People think it's about feet. Well, of course it is about feet, but feet are joined to ankles and legs and backs and necks. And so anything that happens to your feet is going to impact your whole body. We use our feet a lot. They 5 times around the earth in a typical lifetime. That is a lot of pounding on the streets and a lot of stress on what is a fairly small, 2 fairly small structures that support your body. We work as podiatrists, we work in the private healthcare system, in the public healthcare system, community health, aged care, sports and biomechanics is a popular area. Surgery is something you can specialise into. Thank you, Molly. So we've had a course at Charles Sturt for the last 24 years, and it's been an on-campus course. That's the common mode for courses in Australia, podiatry, and in the UK. But in 2026, we're introducing a hybrid course. So this means that students can stay and live, continue to work in their home location, study online, come to campus to do some on-campus intensives for prac and work in our clinic, and also do some of their supervised practice hours, so the workplace learning in workplaces that are in their home region, which means that we're not asking students to uplift everything and move themselves and family to Albury. So we're really excited. We've had a lot of interest this year in this new model. That's what I said. I think it's got in the middle of the slide. It's the first of the kind in Australia. Sorry, Molly, you need to jump back to that one. This is the first course that's been delivered as a hybrid course in Australia. We have traditional courses offered around the country and in New Zealand, but this is the first one that gives us this flexibility with hybrid. And it's really about addressing our workforce shortage, because particularly in regional and rural areas, podiatrists are in absolutely high demand. So our graduates have more than many offers of jobs. It's a real workforce need we're addressing. Thank you, Molly. And I partnered with this, so we developed this a couple of years ago, is an undergraduate certificate in foot health, because not everybody has the time or the means to study for 4 years to be a podiatrist, but they're really interested in foot health. This is a part-time 1-year course that allows people to do 4 subjects from our first year of the bachelor degree to become a podiatry assistant. And a podiatry assistant can work under the direction of a podiatrist, much like a dental assistant or a dental technician working with a dentist. It's the same sort of model, a hybrid model, again, like the bachelor program. And people can transfer into the bachelor if they love it. If they love the undergraduate certificate, they can move into podiatry. Thank you, Molly. And as I started off saying, podiatry is really poorly understood when you look at the diversity of the practice areas that are listed on the slides there. You'll see that it's a really broad-ranging area, and yeah, plenty to get into. I've been podiatrist for a long time, never dull. Thank you very much for listening.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Caroline. I'll just be passing now to Patricia, who'll be taking us through the Bachelor of Food Science and Nutrition.
Terrific. Well, as you can see, we've actually moved to the slide that shows several of the courses that I will talk about tonight. The Bachelor of Food Science and Nutrition is online with some intensive schools for things like food chemistry and food product development at Wagga Wagga. This means that you can basically study at home through the online portals, which we do know do work better than our first experience here tonight, as Jordan said, but it means that all your resources are online and things for the course as well. There are lots of careers based around food science and nutrition, and so I think we can go to the next slide and come back to this one, Molly. Yes. So the thing about this particular degree is, even though it's online, part-time study is 6 years in duration, but you can do it as a full-time student in 3 years, or if you're already working, you can do it in 4 years as an accelerated program. And we have 2 session intakes a year, so we do a session in session 1 and we also do an intake in session 2. The thing about the careers with this course is that it's diverse. You can work with the food science industry. You can work as a nutritionist within the food science industry. You can work as a nutritionist. And that means that you can be working with aged care. You can be working with disability. You could be working in product development for food. And of course, food is critical to our health and well-being, which is why it sits with us in the School of Dentistry and Medical Science. As I said, there are some laboratories and work that you would do on campus. There's 5 subjects that require attendance, but that's to get those skills so that you can work in things like food quality control. So diversity, this course will lead to many, many options for you as a career. Molly? And I think I kind of did that. We certainly have a NOUSH, what we call the NOUSH, the National Life Science Hub in Wagga Wagga, which is one of our more high-tech laboratory systems that allows you to do that practical work. But we also have a commercial kitchen in Wagga, which means that that product development type work can also be done down there as part of those intensive schools. Next. So these are all the possible careers that you could have by doing a food science and nutrition degree. For anything from health promotion through to nutrition, through to product development, food microbiology. And if you're interested in sourdough, that's all about growing a culture to be able to make sourdough. But you can also do the food chemistry side of things. You can do the food and technology, and you could become a research and development scientist in the area of food and link that all to things like agriculture and technology and product development. So as I said, it's a very, very diverse opportunity that this degree allows for. This is what it looks like if you studied it full time. So you can get a sense of the sorts of subjects you'd be doing if you do the degree, from food microbiology to human physiology and nutrition, nutrition for disease prevention, food safety and quality. There's some practical skills built into the program. We look at First Nations foods and diets, not just Australian First Nations, but across the world, First Nations food and diets. We do some menu planning, and there's a chance to do some advanced topics around, particularly if you're working in the industry, but even if you're not, with our research scientists. So lots of opportunity within the course to get a really broad understanding of human physiology and interaction with health and food and wellness. Okay, so moving on. The Bachelor of Health and Medical Science is a degree that was originally built to allow people to enter a program. They may not know exactly where they want to go with their career, but this gives the opportunity to do that. So a lot of the course is actually built of electives that you can build in, along with some foundational work to support those electives. Next, please, Molly. The thing about this degree is that you can pick up some of the nutrition work in it, you can pick up the chemistry, you can pick up some of the pathology, microbiology type subjects, and you can blend this degree so that you can build it in such a way that you can say, well, I've got my basic physiology and my basic anatomy, and now I can work on that to decide where I'm going to go and what I might like to do in health. It may be that your career is in science communication in the end, but you need these basics to turn around and be able to do that well. It is 3 years full-time or 6 years part-time. We do have some early exit points to accommodate people who decide that partway through, oh, I want to become a physio, or I want to become a podiatrist, or I want to do something else in health and mental and welfare. So those options are there. As I said, you build this degree to suit where you want to go, and you can start it with the basics when you're not quite sure where that final endpoint will be. Thanks, Molly. So this is some of the career opportunities that's possible in health and medical science. There's certainly the laboratory science side of it, including the pharmaceutical science side of it. There is the health industry itself, from anything from health insurance through to health sales to health education and promotion. There's laboratory work, there's the clinical type work around laboratory work. But it's also a foundation towards doing one of these other more competitive courses, if that's what you'd like to do. Competitive in the sense that the entry is competitive. But it is also a standalone course, so you can work in the public sector. You might like to go on and do research. You might like to become one of us and become a university academic, or a researcher in any of these areas. So it supports a very diverse area of careers. Thanks, Molly. And as you can see, this is what the degree looks like in full-time pattern. And you can see the word elective coming up a lot in this program. And that's because we want to give you the basics, but then let you explore what your potential might be and what you're good at. Thanks, Molly. This next one, the Bachelor in Medical Laboratory Science, is the course that supports the pathology laboratory scientists. And this is particularly dear to Abby's heart. He'll talk about that and answer questions for that very happily for you. It is a professionally accredited course for medical and clinical scientists. All the practicals are done at Wagga Wagga in our laboratories down there, and they're done in session 3. It is a 4-year course, but you can complete it in 3 years because we use all 3 sessions, session 1, session 2, and session 3, to do the components of the course. You can study this online. So again, you don't have to move from a rural area to turn around and do your theory. You just need to come to campus to do the practicals. And as I said, it's professionally accredited. And Abby will tell you, we need more medical scientists. We need more of those people who can do all those tests for us that the doctors require for a medical diagnosis. And so this is the sort of career that can really support health in a very broad way. And there's lots of areas you can specialise within. So you can, like Abby, become a hematologist, or you can specialise in histology, which is all the structure of cells, or you can do the immunohematology or the microbiology, or even the cell structure type work with molecular diagnostics and cytogenetics. So it's very diverse, and the 4-year degree gives you all the foundational skills to become a beginning medical scientist working in a pathology lab. If you decide to go a bit further afield, you can also become a research laboratory scientist, and our medical scientists here at CSU do quite a bit of that, and Abby can answer questions around that as well. Thank you. Okay, so this is what it looks like based on a session by session pattern. So you can see all those practical subjects in session 3 where you come in and do your lab experience work, and the theory work occurs in session 1 and session 2. And so you're getting those foundations in the clinical biochemistry, in the hematology, in microbiology, in molecular biology, so that you have that really good grounding to become a beginning practitioner in medical science. Jackie, I think you're next.
I best
Thanks,
turn on
everyone.
my, thank you, Patricia, for that nice introduction also. Right, Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science and associated degrees. Okay, so pretty much the Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science, thank you, that's exactly the slide I was after. You've read my mind there, Molly, is a 3-year undergraduate degree. It is online with on-campus intensives in a number of the subjects, where you can study those intensives or attend those intensives at the Bathurst or the Port Macquarie campus. You can do the base degree, which is ESSA accredited, which is the Exercise and Sports Science Australia. You become an AES, which is an accredited exercise scientist, if you stick with the base degree. But there's also the option to do a major in sports media, which allows you to do other things. It's not ESSA accredited, so it's not about the delivery of exercise per se as an accredited exercise scientist. However, it's if you're interested in things like being a sports media officer or sports promotion and those kinds of things, then that's a good option for you to continue with. So you've got 2 options through there. You do some placements hours also at various organisations and businesses that are usually undertaken between your 2nd and your 3rd year if you're going full time. Now, Molly, could you? Yeah, perfect. So, yeah, we can probably go past that one. That just tells us a bit about some of the areas, because it is a very multi-discipline degree. It touches on so many different areas, but gives you that comprehensive knowledge to be able to deliver exercise well. So You can study from just about anywhere. We do have students from as far afield as Western Australia and Tasmania, and they come across for the intensive period and do that way, but they can complete the rest of their study at their homes in whatever state they're in. And we actually have a couple of international students as well who are based overseas but spend some of their time in Australia. Often they're elite athletes and they are working through their programs at a different pace perhaps. So there's lots of flexibility there. We can move forward. Yep, and there are a number of different areas because it doesn't really sort of stand out as, okay, I'm going to be an exercise scientist. Well, what does that mean? So you can look for careers in sports administration, governance, preventative health. There's a number of different options there. In fitness, performance, coaching, everything from very young children all the way up to adults. You can get involved with community health and corporate health, which is a growing industry. And you can use it as a jumping off point for doing other degrees, more either at the master's level or another bachelor, in terms of things like the accredited exercise physiologist, an AEP, and physiotherapy, speech pathology, occupational therapy, if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in. I don't want to keep going too long. What's the next one there? Yep, okay. And the other option we have here is if you're not sure you want to commit to an entire degree, you can also enroll in you can enroll instead in an undergraduate certificate in exercise studies, which gives you, much like the other undergraduate certificates, the option to take 4 subjects in the first year suite of subjects and graduate from an undergraduate certificate, and then those subjects get credited should you go on and enroll in the bachelor. So it's an all-win, no risk option. The Diploma of Exercise Studies is for any of you that already have a degree but are looking to do a top-up in order to gain entry into the Masters of Clinical Exercise Physiology. So if there's any of you who know what I'm talking about with that sentence, then maybe we could, catch up and talk about that at a different point too. Right, that's not really my slide, but does somebody want to jump in with the undergraduate certificate of health studies? I suspect it's a lot like all the other undergraduate certificates where you do get the option to complete a number of subjects, 4 subjects,
Yep.
to gain that.
So Patricia here. This one is in my portfolio, and it does link beautifully to the Bachelor of Health and Health and Medical Science, but it can also be used to step into some of the other degrees. Again, the undergraduate certificate in health studies allows for those level 1 subjects to be used to test things out and see how you go and experience university study and get that foundational knowledge and skills. And the subjects, depending what course you then decide to go on to, can be used as subject credit in the degree that you then enroll in. So it's a nice little pathway program in some respects, but it's also a bit of a well, let's give this a go. I'm not sure what I want to do, and I'm not sure I'd be good at this. So it gives you a chance to do that, which is basically what most of the undergraduate certificates allow for.
Brilliant. Thank you so much to all our amazing faculty who just sort of presented on those courses there. Now, if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. I'm not sure why, but the separate Q&A session doesn't seem to be activated. It's not giving me the option to activate it on our meeting today. So if you do have any questions, just feel free to pop them into the chat there that should be available to you. And we'll be more than happy to answer any of those live. So we did have one question regarding workplace learning subjects. And so we've just got that there is a workplace learning subject in the exercise science course, which is placed at the end of the second year over the summer. Let's see if any. We've just got another question here from Judy. So just regarding work placement, does the uni allocate the placement or do students approach the organisations? If anyone wants to speak just specifically to their course on the work placement in the course.
I can speak to that. Jordan, thank you. It's Caroline here for podiatry, but this does apply to certainly all the health and exercise science courses. Students aren't actually allowed to go and make their own arrangements, and that's for reasons of accreditation. The courses are all accredited by our professional bodies, but students are allowed to put in preferences. So often it's about 3 preferences. If a student's got a family that lives somewhere, they can put a preference for that area. But a preference is different from saying, you know, I can only go here. And that's just to make sure that it's equitable for all students too, and we don't have any conflicts of interest. Thanks, Jordan.
And thank you. And Patricia's just popped in there that you'll have 16 weeks of placement or workplace learning spread across the work in the pathology laboratories as well, just in the Bachelor of Medical Laboratory Science. Anyone has any further questions? You should be able to unmute yourselves as well. So if you don't want to type something in, you're welcome to ask the question directly with your voice.
Can I just say that this is not your last opportunity to ask questions. So if you do have questions, make sure you contact the university beyond this time. I'm not saying that you can't use the last 15 minutes, please do. But should you think of something, please reach out. We'll happily have chats with you. There you go. There you've got the email address there to send your queries to, and they'll be directed to whomever you sort of name in terms of the courses that you're interested in. Just wanted to get that in there.
No, that's really good advice. And so we do have a lot of people that you can contact. You can also contact our front-facing student teams, but if it's course specific, I'd always recommend going to the FOSH team. They'll be your best source. And so we've just had ask if they're recorded and available to watch. They are, so their recordings will be made available for you. So if you did miss a previous session or this is clashing with another session that you're hoping to see, you will be able to watch those ones. And we've just had Dan C pop in a question there about studying in the summer session. So
sure.
Just across any of your courses, studying across that summer session 3?
The Bachelor of Exercise and Sports Science has only one specific subject that runs in the 3rd session, summer session. However, there are a number of first-year subjects that run in the 3rd session as well. So depending on whether you're doing full-time or part-time, that might be useful. And you do have also an elective, which sometimes can be run, you know, there's less options for you in the summer session, but you have an unrestricted elective where you can choose any subject to complete for that. And that can be done in that session.
I mean, essentially, things like health and medical science, they're scheduled for session 1 and 2. But if there are subjects offered in session 3, you can pick them up in session 3 if you want to spread your load out when they're offered. So there's not a lot offered in session 3, but the option is there for a few subjects.
Brilliant.
Jordan, I was just thinking it might be interesting to picking up really what Jackie was saying about other questions, but for everybody listening to understand that there's a lot of potential movement between courses. So especially in the School of Allied Health, Exercise and Sports Science, similar subjects, some of the same subjects are used across different courses. So somebody might start a course and realize that it's not particularly fitting them well and then move across to another course. And I think that everybody, it's good for everybody to understand that once you're in a course, you're not just stuck in that course. There is a fair bit of opportunity to shift around.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. And so this is what we'd call like a non-year 12 admission. So you can use your previous study in one course to move into another course. And if units you've completed in that course meet the learning outcomes of a course you're going into, you may also receive credit for that study. It's very much a case-by-case basis. Some courses can be a little trickier because, again, the what's the word? Oh my goodness, the word's falling out. They're accredited by external bodies. So, for example, if you're going into nursing, the units have very specific requirements. Or if you're coming from nursing into one of these courses, there may be very specific requirements. And so that can affect credit. So it is a case-by-case basis, but you're not always starting again from scratch. And it doesn't always add time to your study. So you do get that flexibility. And again, you can just do that internally with the university as well. It's a fairly seamless process, to be honest. We have all your documents internalized, so you don't really need to add a whole lot to the application. And it can be a very straightforward process. And if you are moving from one course to another, it doesn't affect your ability to get HECS or anything like that, unless, of course, you're hitting that cap limit. But if you're just starting to study for the first time, you shouldn't be anywhere near that. So that should be fine. And one thing I'll add as well, I'm not sure if it's come through, sorry, but when you do come to campus for some of these practical or intensive periods, accommodation is made available on campus. And you just pay for the week or however long that you're there. And the rate is more or less the same as what the on-campus students would be paying. And there's a whole range of accommodation options that are made available where students either volunteer to vacate for the intensive schools for a discount, or there's certain accommodation on campus where the students have to vacate during those periods to make space for the intensive schools and the on-campus placement. So if you aren't living near one of our campuses and you're wondering, how on earth am I going to get there and get a hotel and all of that stuff, you don't need to worry. We do have that accommodation available. Yep. So we've just got Dan.
Jordan. Sorry, I'm just going to mention there's scholarships available to support students who are studying in a hybrid arrangement and coming onto campus, and there's spaces there. So keep an eye out for scholarship options there as well.
Perfect. Brilliant. And a lot of people don't apply for those scholarships. So if you are eligible, please submit an application. I've worked in a lot of unis and that money always rolls over. We've just got Dan here as well. So how many lectures and tutorials do you usually have each week for online study? This can obviously vary a little bit degree by degree, but if anyone wants to sort of put any input for their degrees, Jacqueline or Patricia?
Sure, I can start. The Bachelor of Exercise and Sport Science, there are between 3 and 2 and 3 hours of sort of content that you would cover, but then there's reading and other things. But the thing about the flexibility of the online platform is that you don't have to be in one spot at one time to do that. Like, you're not expected to turn up at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning to listen to a lecture. They're all recorded if they're delivered live or pre-recorded. So you can determine how you want to interact with that. There's modules you work through on the subject sites and other ways that you can communicate with the lecturers. So each undergraduate subject is confined by the number of hours we can give undergraduate students in one subject too. So there's, each of them should be approximately the same as each other. I don't know if that helps, but it's usually the equivalent of what would have been somewhere 2 to 4 hours of content activity, but how that looks in different subjects is variable, but never going over that cap.
I could just add, Jackie, because I know certainly in some courses, and we'll try and do it as well, is to put the tutorials on a day so that people who are working at least can go, oh, maybe, all right, Tuesday and Thursday is my study day, and then you can put work around it. So as much as possible, we will try to make sure that it's compact within the week, so you don't just have it dripping across. But as Jackie said, everything's recorded. Some students just prefer to study in their own time, in the middle of the night.
Brilliant. And I suppose I'll just add in there too, Dan, that if you are studying and you do find that it's a bit too much, or it's just, you've got a lot else going on in the rest of your life, If the course is offered part-time, you do have up until what's called the census date to adjust your enrollment. So you might be enrolled in 4 units or however many to begin with. And as an example, let's say the session 1 starts on March 1st. These are just example dates. If the census date may not be until, the first week of April, for example, or the 31st of March. And so you have up until that time to withdraw from a unit before you're financially or academically liable for it. So there is a bit of a buffer period. So if you do start studying and you do need to make some changes, you do have the option to do that as well. That does vary a little bit course to course though, just depending on whether or not it's available part-time, and just depending on the study plan for that course. But that can be an option. Because we don't have the Q&A and I can't see if people are typing, I'm happy for us just to linger here for a moment, I suppose. But as I said, if you do have any questions at all, feel free to pop them into that chat. Our meeting will end in a few minutes. And then, yeah, perfect. And Molly's just dropped in that email again. So fosh-course@csu.edu.au. And as always, you can always contact any of our front teams as well. But as I said, if you reach out to that FOSH email, they'll be able to give you the best, most granular information regarding the courses themselves. Alrighty, so what I might do, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our faculty that have participated in today's session. I really appreciate it. And I also just want to say a huge thank you to everyone. And thank you so much for coming along. We really appreciate it.